east, but even here, showers will be pushing through and there will still be some strong gusty winds with temperatures, well, looking similar to today. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. There are 10-minute delays on the A2070 southbound near Kent due to congestion. Partial blockage on Northamptonshire's A14 westbound is causing delays, expected to clear by 11:37. Traffic on the M11 southbound in Essex is heavily delayed after a crash, with queues expected until shortly after noon. In Cheshire East, one lane on the M6 southbound is closed for a broken-down vehicle, with normal conditions expected after 9:45. And on the trains, there is major disruption on Greater Anglia services and the Stansted Express between Cheshunt and Harlow Town. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on a BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me. What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 9:30 on Wednesday the 3rd of June, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, fury erupts in Southampton over claims of two-tier policing after the murder of Henry Novak.
I can't breathe! I can't breathe! I can't breathe! I can't breathe! Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you!
Protesters threw bottles, bricks and wheelie bins at riot police. The Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood condemned the disorder.
Well, after that shocking body cam footage was released, over 1,000 protesters gathered here last night to protest against Hampshire Police's involvement in the Henry Novak murder case. Well, tensions were high and police clashed with protesters.
I have seen the body cam footage. It's harrowing, and I have to say, as a father of a 17-year-old boy, I felt sick.
Well, that was the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, reacting to the harrowing body cam footage as police forces now face calls to drop racial bias policies after that murder.
Yes, with riots taking place in Southampton yesterday and more expected today, all three of the main political leaders have weighed in. You can expect Prime Minister's questions at noon to be a fiery one. Find out more with me very soon.
And in other news, a chemical industry director tells GB News the sector is in grave danger if the government don't tackle rising energy costs.
Impact that the UK is having on global decarbonisation is, I'm afraid it's insignificant relative to other countries. So why are we punishing UK manufacturing to look good?
And bacon sandwiches are under attack. The Energy Secretary Ed Miliband wants you to give up the rashers to save the planet.
Honestly. And the back of the banknotes. Find out why Sir Winston Churchill could soon be replaced on your tenner by a fox, dolphin, or even a bumblebee.
We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender.
Look, I have to say we have to condemn that violence last night. Do not attack the police. Do not throw bricks and bombs and handmade. It's just not acceptable. The police really messed up so badly, didn't they? We know that.
Yeah.
And I do think it's extraordinary, Miriam, that nobody has been suspended at all. There's an ongoing investigation that will take months and months. But the answer isn't violence against the police. They do a good job, a brave job. They stand in the way of crime all the time to protect us. So that is not the answer.
And it is a huge distraction from a very, very important conversation that we do need to have nationally about what happened, about diversity training, about equality under the law. And riots like that just give people on the left an excuse to say, well, we need more of this training, we need more crackdowns. So yes, it is terrible, and hopefully the disorder will stop. And as always, there's a couple of people who just want to stir it up,
of course,
enjoy a riot. But nevertheless, I think the fact that the country is angry about this case, really disturbed by what we've learned, and of course by that harrowing footage, we do need to talk about it.
And I suspect in the government they've underestimated yet again the scale of public anger over seeing with our own eyes an 18-year-old boy pleading for help from the police, telling the police 9 times he's been stabbed, that he can't breathe, and they treated him with clinical disdain, and they didn't believe him. They believed the so-called Sikh assassin who lied and lied. So they put racism before that young man dying in a driveway.
Well, we're going to be digging into some of these policies and what might be done to reverse them. We'd love to know what you think. Send your views and post your comments to
gbnews.com/you'll say. But first, here's the 60-second news update with Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you very much. Good morning to you. The headlines from the GB Newsroom. 2 people have been arrested after violence in Southampton, during which hundreds of demonstrators gathered to protest about the treatment of Henry Novak, who was murdered last December. He was handcuffed despite having been fatally stabbed after his killer, Vikram Digba, falsely accused him of racism. A fragile ceasefire between the US and Iran has been further tested with an exchange of fire. Kuwait says it's intercepted a number of drones, but its international airport and terminal building were hit, causing a number of injuries. The US military says it's carried out strikes on Keshem Island in the Strait of Hormuz. A Labour-led committee of MPs has called for the government to end its NHS data contract in England with the US tech giant Palantir. The company, co-founded and run by Alex Karp, has deep links with defence and security in the US. A new report suggests 3/4 of people are not on track for a moderate pension and face a cliff-edge drop in income when they retire. Pensions UK is blaming rising bills and the cost of groceries for pushing up the cost of retirement. And the UK should prepare for what is likely to be a warmer than average summer. The Met Office has released its 3-month outlook, and it's forecasting an increased chance of heat waves. And you're up to date for the moment. More news coming up at 10 o'clock.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player, and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
And it's the morning after the night before. Protests erupting in the streets of Southampton last night. Pressure mounting on the police to drop these diversity policies. Just have a look at this.
But these protests did eventually turn violent and police were pelted with bricks and bins and bottles.
Home Secretary branded the scenes unacceptable as officers clashed with over 100 demonstrators.
Well, one out of the 4 police officers involved in the arrest of Henry Novak has now resigned, but the other 3 remain on frontline duty. And
I find that extraordinary, actually. I do, because everyone can see they treated Henry Novak with utter clinical disdain. They didn't believe a word he said. He was dying. They didn't believe he'd been stabbed. They didn't call an ambulance. They were there to protect him, and yet they just watched his life ebb away in front of him in that blood-stained driveway. It's truly shocking. And now we've got the Home Secretary telling the Commons yesterday the guidance, the racial guidance to police is clumsy. It's not clumsy, Home Secretary. It's wrong, because it's saying put the colour of someone's skin first, i.e. if it's not white.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's exactly what they're saying.
And I've been reading the Hampshire Constabulary Race Action Plan this morning, and it's all about how police and police officers can make sure that ethnic minority communities feel safe and are well policed. And of course, you know, everybody deserves to feel safe and for the police to treat them well. But you can see a direct link between the training that they've received and the documents that they study and the way that they responded to this murder. And I assume the 3 officers who are still serving will be part of this IOPC investigation. So we'll have to see what that says. But it's also really worrying, isn't it, that these violent scenes have erupted. Of course, people are angry. Of course, people will want to protest. But the problem is that turning it into violence just gives the police another headache.
And if you're listening on the radio, we've just seen a wheelie bin thrown against a police officer who just took it. That's not their job.
Yeah.
And the police do a great job, don't they? 99% of the time.
Well, they do, and we can't afford for them to become demoralised or face a recruitment crisis because of this. It just needs swift action.
This is going to be a massive recruitment crisis, isn't it? I mean, if you're listening again, a wheelie bin thrown and it strikes a police officer, it's just unacceptable. I'm amazed only 2 people were arrested, actually.
Yeah, well, let's hope it doesn't continue.
And if you're thinking about joining the protests in Southampton, do it peacefully.
Well, shall we go now to our, GB News South of England reporter, Isabel Feculak. She's been in Southampton. Isabel, good morning. And what are the scenes like this morning? Is there a clear-up going on?
Well, good morning to you both, Miriam and Andrew. Still some remnants left behind from the protest yesterday, some rubbish on the street, but majority seems to have cleared. The Southampton Central Police Station, where I'm stood now, looking very empty compared to last night when over 1,000 protesters stood here shouting in unison some of Henry Novak's last words, "I can't breathe." Also, you heard on that video you just played them shouting towards the police, "Shame on you." And tensions were high between police and protesters last night. From the get-go, we were here at Southampton Central Station where it begun. They moved on towards Portswood. That's where it started to become a bit violent, with bins being set on fire, police vehicles surrounded by protesters shouting "scum," and as you said, 2 arrests being made, one of them for assaulting a police officer and another for having an offensive weapon. Now, of course, many of the people that were here attending the protest did it peacefully. They did it to stand up for Henry Novak and his family and to seek justice, but it did turn violent at times. As you said there, Shabana Mahmood did condemn it, saying that it was unacceptable. She said that there can be no justification for hijacking this tragedy to stir up violence and disorder. And let's go back to what Henry's father said outside court this week, when he said that they want to use Henry's story to make change for the better, not cause any further division. Well, of course, the protests last night turned violent. There was high tensions between police and a lot of very angry people. But here's some remnants. There is some flowers just outside, white roses, and a card that reads that the despair for this death is overshadowed by anger they feel towards the injustice shown last night on the streets of Southampton.
OK, so that's Isabel Fetkelak for GB News in Southampton. We're going to talk now to Ken Hines, who's the chairman of Communities Against Violence. Ken, morning to you.
Morning, Andrew.
Look, violence of this sort is always unacceptable. We all support the right to protest, but not to take the law into their own hands in this violent way.
But Andrew, I don't know what people expect with this knee-jerk reaction coming particularly from Nigel Farage and Tommy Robinson. So when they get them out there, what did we expect to happen when they're confronting the police?
Well, what did Nigel Farage say that was provoking this crowd, Ken?
He said something about rage.
Yes, he said cold rage. I share it. I share the cold rage. I think most people in the country share the cold rage, Ken. Why wouldn't they?
Might do so, Andrew, but you know we've got fickle people out there that will take it somewhere else. You, and along with Nigel and the rest, has got a responsibility to be balanced and fair and not to escalate things. At the moment, things are red hot, and that's because of the irresponsible media reporting.
No, it's not, Ken. It's because of the way. It's because of the way they. Ken, sorry. It's because of the way the police allowed that young man's life to ebb away. They didn't believe him. They believed a racist killer.
Andrew, listen, as far as I'm concerned, because the harm that I've gone through the police over decades, right? I'm being handcuffed, being beaten up, but yet I'm still in there engaging, trying to turn things around. Now I'm hearing that because of what happened now, the race action plan and all the things that we've been working to try to make things better is now going to be thrown out the window. I'm reporting on GB News yesterday. I heard an elderly white woman say that she went up to the police officers and said, you know what? If anything happens to me or if I came across any kind of crime going on, I will not report it to the police. These things are things that in the black community, we have been experiencing for many decades. And this is why we don't engage. Now, if you get the white community taking on the same action, the police have got a serious problem. I'm saying to you, as one of the community police advisors, what I find unacceptable about the police, routinely, they put people in handcuffs, even if they're compliant or whatever. That's unacceptable. Look at this. Look where they took it in this case. Their training and common sense went out the window.
But did it though, Ken? Or was their training, as evidenced by their race action plan, which you can read on Hampshire Constabulary's website, did their training kick into action perfectly? They were told to make sure that they focused on so-called hate crimes, to make sure that ethnic minority communities were policed, they felt safe, that they weren't over-victimised. Those are the words on their race action plan. I would argue that actually their training kicked in perfectly. Of course they made mistakes, but it's exposed the link between DEI training and all these different action plans and actually bad policing on the ground that focuses on racial concerns, woke concerns over common sense. That's what's happened here.
No. What happened clearly there is that the perpetrator brother called it into the police. So when the police were coming out, they were coming out on a wrong narrative. When they got there and they see it was a Sikh that was involved, why should they think any different? Because they're not known to be involved in crime. And when they had the mother and the brother there who said nothing about the young man being stabbed and needing urgent medical assistance.
But he said it, didn't he, Ken?
That's where the problem lies.
Henry Novak said that he'd been stabbed, and instead of checking him, of course the police are lied to all the time, we understand that. But instead of checking to make sure, they dismissed him, handcuffed him, and the last thing he heard was his rights being read to him.
That absolutely terrible, horrendous. But it doesn't mean that all the trauma I've been through and still continue to affect as a black man by the hands of the police, that's going to get thrown out the window or watered down and saying, instead of we'd be 9 times more likely to be stopped and searched, we're going to be more like 20 times more likely to be stopped and searched after this furore going on. And they're saying that they were justifying that. It's not justifiable to turn that and take it somewhere else, right? We work hard to try to make things balanced, make things fair, make things peaceful. But if we're going to go back to just going out there and throwing bricks and bottles at the police because they're disproportionately being much harsher on my community, I'd be out there. Standing up there as well, saying it's unacceptable.
All right,
so
Ken, you speak very powerfully. We hear you. Ken Hines is the chairman of the Communities Against Violence. group. What we have to remember is that a murderer won preferential treatment from those police by playing the race card.
Absolutely.
That murderer had two weapons. One was the knife and the other was the race card.
And people have to take responsibility. Of course, politicians should not stir up violence, but I haven't heard any mainstream politicians doing that, and certainly not what Nigel Farage said yesterday. There's a difference between feeling angry about something and feeling rage about something, and then choosing, as an adult, to go out on the street and commit crime. The two things aren't necessarily linked.
The left have seized on the two words that Nigel Farage used, cold rage.
Yeah.
Cold rage? I think most of the country feels cold rage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why wouldn't they?
And surely the aim should be for the police to treat everybody equally, not to double down on any particular actions.
What is it? The police anti-racism commitment came into law last year. It specifically says pursuit of justice does not mean being treated everyone the same or being colourblind. In other words, treat people differently according to their colour.
Exactly.
Shocking.
It's surely the definition of racism.
It is.
Well, coming up next, the Prime Minister finally reacts to the killing of Henry Novak.
I have seen the body cam footage. It's harrowing. And I have to say, as a father of a 17-year-old boy, I felt sick.
The question we're asking is, why did it take him so long to respond? This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
It's a bit of a mixed picture across southern Europe looking ahead to tomorrow. There is some rain around, but lots of places largely dry. Most of the rain's across Greece at the moment, not southern parts of Greece, dry here, but further north outbreaks of rain. Mostly dry for Italy, but across southern parts of France, northern parts of Spain, there'll be some rain. Mostly dry for more southern areas and across much of Portugal, even the Canaries and Madeira having largely dry weather. More fine weather for most as we go through into the weekend. See you later.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
The travellers have arrived at the cricket pitch, and let's be frank, they're not very welcome. Seems to be a pattern of just taking over public land like this, and should that stop?
If you try to book onto a campsite, i.e. a regular campsite with tents and there's shower facilities, etc., where tents, caravans go, motorhomes, your point blank will be turned down as a group. If they put in their postcode, just to say a couple of motorhomes, they do this sort of Google land search to their postcode and they'll be refused. Not even as big groups, even as one or two. So it's impossible to get onto a campsite. And then people are clearly camping. And if you're going to camp somewhere, clearly you go into an industrial estate with concrete, you've got kids or a nice green field. They've gone to a nice green cricket field. I can appreciate it's a cricket field, but that's what they're doing. They're camping because they've got nowhere else to go.
OK, well, let's get the Formula 8 Boss MP and Graham Jones on now. Graham Jones, it's not cricket, is it?
No, it isn't. I mean, we had an incident near us on the football pitch 3 or 4 years ago, and the mess that was left and the cost of it, fortunately, you know, the authorities moved swiftly and removed them off. But I just don't think the laws are tough enough. You know, volunteers spend hours cleaning these places up. They spend hours investing in them, and then to have them just turned into a rubbish dump or not be able to use. And in this case and in other cases, the abuse that you receive is just incredible. I mean, it's just not acceptable. There's no respect for local people whatsoever. and there needs to be more respect for them and the property that they look after, the public property that they care for. And I'm afraid that doesn't happen in most cases.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB Newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 8 minutes to 10. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Prime Minister's finally spoken out about the murder of Henry Novak after watching that footage of police handcuffing him as he lay dying, having been stabbed 5 times. Here's what he said.
I have seen the body cam footage. It's harrowing. And I have to say, as a father of a 17-year-old boy, I felt sick watching it. It is absolutely right that the IOPC are looking at this. There are clearly serious questions that need to be addressed, not least how accusations of racism inform the decision-making in this case.
But has he said enough? Well, we're joined now in the studio by our political correspondent, Olivia Utley. Olivia, good morning. Lots of people asking when the Prime Minister was going to comment on that case. He finally has. How do you think his comments have been received?
Well, the problem for the government is that they're clearly trying to stick to this holding line of we're waiting until the IOPC investigation before we say anything. The issue with that line is that in this case, pretty much everyone can see with their own eyes what happened on the body-worn footage camera. Now, the Prime Minister has said he feels sick. That sounds quite strong, but he won't go as far, and nor will any of his ministers, as to say that this is an example of two-tier policing. Now, that is an open goal for Kemi Badenoch, I think. Actually, on almost every aspect of this case, Kemi Badenoch and Keir Starmer are in lockstep. They've both said that there needs to be equality under the law. They've both condemned Nigel Farage for sort of condoning, as they see it, these riots. But the matter of two-tier policing is an area where they disagree. And as most people who've watched the footage think that it is a clear example of two-tier policing, I think that will be something that Kemi Badenoch can really use to her advantage at Prime Minister's questions. The other big question for the government is this NPCC wording, which says that the treatment of victims should be, the treatment of anyone by the police should be racialised, and there shouldn't be, police officers shouldn't be colourblind, which I think is really quite extraordinary. Now, the Home Secretary has said that that wording is clumsy. The policing minister, Sarah Jones, was on GB News this morning saying that it's more of a values document than policing policy. But when actually asked when that document will be changed, the government doesn't quite have an answer. So again, I think that's an area of real weakness.
You see, she uses the word clumsy, the Home Secretary. It's just patently wrong.
It's wrong and potentially very damaging.
And it's driving young police officers or police officers on the beat, on the front line, into making terrible decisions, because that's what they've been told to do.
Exactly, and it totally undermines the concept of equality under the law. The NPCC has said that they will look at the wording again, but I wonder if that response from the government will be seen as a bit lacklustre, that use of the word clumsy. I wonder if, too, there will be some sort of Cobra meeting if there are more riots today and perhaps tomorrow, like the Cobra meeting that was called when we had that riot, summer of riots in 2025. At the moment, it feels as though the government just hasn't quite gone far enough, but I think we'll see the sort of political environment unfolding throughout the day, especially with PMQs at 12.
And it's interesting to see how this is unfolding between Kemi Badenoch and Nigel Farage. Obviously, there has been that criticism of Farage, but I think many people will say, many of our viewers will say, that he was expressing the national mood. People do feel angry. That doesn't mean you go out and riot on the streets, of course not, but people do feel angry. But then, on the other hand, Reform have taken some of Kemi Badenoch's word completely out of context on social media, and I think, made a fool of themselves.
Well, exactly. So specifically, Kemi Badenoch, Nigel Farage has quoted Kemi Badenoch on social media. The Reform Party has quoted Kemi Badenoch as saying, "I don't want to hear White Lives Matter." What she actually said was, "I don't want to hear Black Lives Matter. I don't want to hear White Lives Matter. I want to hear Everyone Matters," which is obviously a completely different take to what Reform has skewed her words as. Kemi Badenoch so far seems to be coming out quite well in this. Let's see how it all unfolds at Prime Minister's Questions.
Absolutely.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Livia. And, of course, not long to go till PMQs at midday. Do send your questions to gbnews.com/yoursay.
This is Britain's Newsroom, Britain's favourite morning show on GB News. Well done, Olivia. That was very good.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. On the M25 southbound in Cheshire East, 2 lanes are closed between junctions 17 and 16 due to a broken down vehicle, causing delays. The M11 southbound in Essex has a collision between junctions 7 and 6, with delays expected until 11:50. The A15 westbound in Northamptonshire is congested, with 10-minute delays. The A30 eastbound exit slip to the A386 in Devon is closed for maintenance until shortly after 12 today. And on the trains, there's major disruption between Cheshunt and Hertford East, as well as Harlow Town on Greater Anglia and Stansted Express services. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
There's a totally tax-free £76,543.21 in cash to be won. Cash to spend on anything you like. That's like having over £6,000 extra to spend each month for a whole year. You could spend it on a bucket list holiday, treats for all of the family, or just save it for a rainy day. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late night TV shows. We're giving you a front row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. It's 10 o'clock on Wednesday, the 3rd of June. We are live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Fury erupting in Southampton overnight over those claims of two-tier policing in the murder of teenager Henry Novak.
I can't breathe! I can't breathe! I can't breathe! I can't breathe! Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you!
Well, protesters threw bottles, bricks and wheelie bins at riot police as the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood condemns the disorder.
I have seen the body cam footage. It's harrowing. And I have to say, as a father of a 17-year-old boy, I felt sick.
That's the Prime Minister reacting to that harrowing body cam footage as police forces now face calls across the country to drop their race-biased policies after that murder.
Elsewhere, a chemical industry director tells GB News that the sector is in grave danger if the government doesn't tackle rising energy costs.
Impact that the UK is having on global decarbonisation is, I'm afraid it's insignificant relative to other countries. So why are we punishing UK manufacturing to look good?
Well, bacon sandwiches are under attack. Andrew's very disappointed. Energy Secretary Ed Miliband wants you to give up your rashers to save the planet.
And the Battle of the Banknotes. Find out why the great Sir Winston Churchill could be replaced on your tenner by a fox, dolphin, or even, get this, a flipping bumblebee.
We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender.
So why are bacon sandwiches going to be banned? How is this going to save the planet?
Madness from Ed Miliband, our Net Zero Secretary, is he wants to restrict how much meat we eat because it's produced by cows, which put a lot of methane in the atmosphere, and dairy products, same reason, as part of his commitment to get our green drives. And it would be, if he does this, it would be, we would then have one of the most onerous net zero regimes anywhere in the world.
And it wouldn't help anybody.
And can I just say, mind your own business. Find a bacon sandwich or drink a pint of milk. Get lost, Minister.
But you know,
Get
this
out
is
of our
happening.
lives.
At a previous school that one of my children went to, they introduced meat-free Mondays or something in order to try and improve their environmental impact. And it's very geeky, but I looked up the carbon footprint of various different vegetarian products, like avocados shipped all over the world. Basically, if you're going to transport vegetables from all over the world, it's actually far better to eat chickens and pigs that are reared locally in terms of the carbon footprint. So
I know.
maybe he'll ban avocados for green warriors.
And this is a man who could yet be a Labour leader or even a Labour Chancellor. He's a menace already.
Of course, he was deeply embarrassed by that footage of him eating a bacon sandwich. So maybe this is a personal vendetta against bacon sandwiches.
That was in 2014 when it was so embarrassing. His chief of staff actually took the bacon sandwich off him because he was
didn't want any more.
Such a bad.
Can you imagine now that social media is much more ubiquitous? That would have had millions of views across the world.
He'd have been mocked even more than he normally is.
Anyway, we digress. We'd love to know what you think about all the stories we're covering today. Send your views and post your comments to
gbnews.com/you'll say. But first, here's the news headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Very good morning to you. 3 minutes past 10 here in the GB Newsroom. Our top stories. The Home Secretary has condemned disorder at protests in Southampton over the police handling of the murder of Henry Novak, describing it as completely unacceptable. 2 people have been arrested. It follows hundreds who gathered outside Southampton police station yesterday, which then erupted into violence as officers were pelted with bricks and stones. Shabana Mahmood says there can be no justification for hijacking the tragedy to fuel disorder. The student was handcuffed and arrested last December after he was fatally stabbed by his killer, Vikram Digwa, who lied to police that he'd been racially attacked. One of the 4 officers involved has now resigned, while the others remain on frontline duty. The Conservatives say it's right that controversial guidance advising officers to treat ethnic minorities differently to ensure equalities of outcomes are to be reviewed.
This is not an isolated example. And our criminal justice system and our law enforcement are being corrupted by political correctness and by left-wing ideologies that talk about equity rather than equality. They say that we need to treat people differently on the basis of their racial and their religious identity. That has to be completely wrong. If you believe in the rule of law, you have to believe in equality before the law, and that's what we need to get back to.
Well, Policing Minister Sarah Jones has appealed for calm in the wake of the riots and has rejected accusations of two-tier policing.
My view as Policing Minister is that everybody is equal under the law. My view is that the vast majority of police officers who we ask to run into danger do so with professionalism and bravery, and that our policing by consent model is the right one, where we take that always striving for equality under the law. That is the fundamental basis on which our tolerant society exists, and that is what we must fight for. My point is that it is not the answer to turn to division and violence.
Sir Keir Starmer is set to face renewed scrutiny over cracks in his government and his use of disappearing messages after the newly released Mandelson documents. The Prime Minister's weekly appearance in the Commons will be the first opportunity MPs have to grill him about the content of the Mandelson files released earlier this week, which revealed senior ministers admitting their frustrations with Sir Keir's leadership and the heart of government. The Prime Minister yesterday defended his use of disappearing messages on WhatsApp, resulting in the latest release containing just one page of correspondence between Sir Keir and the disgraced peer. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister will meet victims of the former Harrods owner Mohammed Al Fayed later. Survivors are calling for greater accountability over what they described as decades of institutional rape and sexual abuse associated with the department store. More than 400 allegations of misconduct have been made against Al Fayed dating back to 1977. An independent police investigation was launched last month into 5 current and former serving officers for potential misconduct related to the handling of allegations against Al Fayed, who died in 2023. The US and Iran have exchanged fresh missile and drone strikes, further jeopardising efforts to secure a new ceasefire agreement. The US military says it carried out self-defence strikes on Qasem Island in the Strait of Hormuz after Tehran launched missiles towards Kuwait and Bahrain. Flight tracking data shows planes avoiding Kuwaiti airspace after flights were suspended following an attack on the international airport there, injuring several people. The US also released footage of a strike against an oil tanker attempting to sail towards an Iranian port in the Gulf. The latest attacks come amid stalled ceasefire negotiations between the two sides. A Labour-led committee of MPs has called for the government to end its NHS data contract in England with the US tech giant Palantir. The company, co-founded and run by Alex Karp, has deep links with US defence and security firms. The Commons Science, Innovation and Technology Committee accused Palantir of having a clear mismatch with British values, warning that its role in public services is an unacceptable point of weakness, which potentially leaves information at the mercy of foreign actors. A new report suggests 3/4 of people face a cliff-edge drop in income when they retire. Pensions UK says just 23% of people are on track for a moderate lifestyle, which it estimates would cost £32,500 per year for one person and £45,000 for two. It's blaming the rising bills and the price of groceries for pushing up the cost of retirement. And the UK should prepare for what's likely to be a warmer than average summer. The Met Office has released its 3-month summer outlook and is forecasting an increased chance of heat waves. England and Wales had their warmest spring on record this year, thanks partly to an exceptionally early heat wave last month. A new May all-time record was set in Kew Gardens in London. That was last month. It replaced the previous record, which was set back in 1944. And you are fully up to date with all the latest news. I'll be back with more for you at 10 o'clock.
Taking the ups and downs in our stride. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
And a quick look at the updated finance. This morning, the pound buys you $1.35 and €1.15. Gold will cost £3,554 per ounce. The FTSE 100 is at 10,596 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
I imagine there's quite a lot of emails and texts coming in, Miriam.
There have, Andrew, and lots of response to our first guest, Ken Hines.
Thought there might be.
Ronald says, what I'm hearing from Ken Hines is that the British people should put up with horrendous incidents like the one with Henry Novak and just keep quiet about it. That does seem to be what he was saying, and that we shouldn't be rolling back any of the diversity agenda in case it resulted in more stop and search for the black community or whatever that may be.
Well, I mean, it was Theresa May, as Home Secretary, who insanely, in my view, told police chiefs to do less stop and search.
It clearly is very difficult to police in multicultural society, but surely that points to the fact that multiculturalism is the problem, rather than we need to somehow mitigate against different cultures. We should be one culture. Multiracial, yes.
Yeah.
Multicultural, no. We should have one culture.
And our first guest just seemed to be incapable of even comprehending that what went wrong in Southampton may have been something to do with that diversity indoctrination of police officers by their bosses.
And also he accused politicians, Nigel Farage in particular, of stirring up the kind of protests that we saw yesterday. But surely politicians have to be able to speak about these things and respond to them, and then individuals have to take responsibility as to whether or not they use that as an excuse for violence. It doesn't seem to follow.
I unusually watched Newsnight on BBC Two last night, and the whole programme virtually was devoted to whether Nigel Farage was stirring up race hate. Very little discussion as to the calamitous failure of policing, which contributed to the death of Henry Novak.
Well, just to recap on those protests, they erupted in the streets of Southampton yesterday evening. Pressure is now mounting on the police to drop overemphasised diversity policies. Take a listen to this.
Sadly, those legitimate protests turned violent, and the police were pelted with bricks, bins, wheelie bins for God's sake, and bottles.
Well, excuse me, the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood branded the scenes as unacceptable as officers clashed with around 1,000 demonstrators.
Journalist and director of Destination Dover, Jack Hadfield, was at the protest last night. Jack, morning to you. Look, we support the right to protest, and it's important we have that right to protest, and I think it's legitimate that people are protesting in Southampton, but the violence was unacceptable.
Yes, and I think it's pretty easy to say that, but the actual levels of violence compared to the attendees, for example, so the original protest took place outside Southampton Central Police Station at 6 o'clock yesterday evening. At that time, I would wager there must have been close to maybe 3,000-4,000 people there or so.
Was there really?
Certainly a very large crowd there initially. After there were some speeches, the crowd then marched basically 2 miles up the road to Portswood Police Station, where that clip was filmed in front of, with the protesters chanting "shame," which is then just round the corner from the house where Henry Novak died. And some of the protesters then went round there and placed flowers and signs outside of the house. So the people who are actually then involved in the violence were already a small fraction of the original protesters. A lot of them then dropped out or went further on in the day. This was a couple of hours or so after protests originally started. And then it was an even smaller fraction of those people who actually engaged in the violence, maybe 100 people maximum or so. So I think it's important to recognise that it was actually a mostly peaceful protest, whereas, you know, you see the establishment media back in 2020 in the George Floyd riots actually describing actual full-blown riots, people dying, police vans burning, buildings burning, as mostly peaceful. Why aren't they describing this one as that?
Yeah, interesting. Of course, we understand that there were quite a few people come from out of the area to protest, understandably angry, upset about the murder and the footage that we've seen. Do you also think there could have been some people come from outside the area intent on violence, you know, professional rioters, if you like? Those are the kind of people that allow the left-wing media to claim that this is stoking violence and all the things that they abhor.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some of that. I think there always is in any protest that's likely to get violent. You know, some people do just enjoy that. But even out of the people that actually engage in violence to begin with, I think a lot of it is actual anger at the situation, and they're not just doing it for the love of the game in a way. They are actually wanting to express that anger at a tragic crime that happened, and frankly, that should never have happened to begin with.
The police, from what I could see, Jack, who showed incredible tolerance, they didn't react, and I saw one police officer, a wheelie been thrown at him, and he barely flinched.
Yeah.
They are extraordinary, the police. I mean, the point I make is most of the time they do a fantastic job a lot, and they stand in the way of trouble to protect us. We shouldn't forget that.
Well, yes, I think that's true. But the police also, when there are bad officers, I do think the police are very liable institutionally to circle the wagons and protect their own. And certainly, again, if we're comparing this back to 2020, obviously George Floyd, you know, both of them had really, both George Floyd and Henry Novak had the same dying words of "I can't breathe." And back at the protests in 2020, the police officers, I saw them, they took the knee with the BLM rioters, whereas just last night, there were multiple people taking the knee in front of the officers.
And they didn't.
And there was nothing. There was just stony silence.
And I think it's bizarre that some of the police officers involved in this terrible what happened with Henry have not been suspended.
Yeah.
But isn't it the case, though, that whilst the individual officers, of course, are culpable and we await the outcome of that investigation, they are also the product of the system and the institution and the anti-bias training. So, yes, of course, people are free to protest against the police. But actually what we should be protesting against or trying to change is the top-down anti-racism training that comes from, you know, the highest points in government, the highest officers. People are promoted to those positions because of their diversity credentials. That's really where we should be directing our demand for change.
I completely agree with that. I think, for example, people who've been talking about the Kirpan bans and demanding the death penalty back for the murderers, like, yes, that's I probably maybe agree with that, but that's not actually where the real problem is. It is the frankly institutional anti-white racism within the police. We've obviously seen the Hampshire race police action plan from a couple of years ago, which again was sparked off by George Floyd, which again was a death that took place in another country, nothing to do with our police force. And obviously I think Farage and Reform have been focusing on the police again, specifically themselves. You know, really since the Blair government, you know, there's been a shift in frankly, people who even go into the police in the first place, you know, forcing people to go to university first, which is obviously one stage in woke indoctrination, and then with all the DI stuff that comes after that, frankly, you know, really since my lifetime, really the past 30 years or so, I think the actual quality of police officer has gone down because those that were good have left because they don't want to stand for any of this, and then therefore, if you see what the police is now, obviously it's going to only attract more of those people with those inclinations to begin with.
And that ludicrous Hampshire diversity police guidance said the George Floyd killing was a profound moment for Hampshire police. Why?
I know, it's extraordinary.
How does that have any significance whatsoever? What's it got to do with Hampshire police? Nothing. And then we get the Home Secretary saying that some of this police guidance is clumsy. Clumsy is the wrong word, Home Secretary. It's just wrong.
Yeah, deliberately targeted. You know, I think we've seen really, this has gone back, you know, for obviously longer than George Floyd, the McPherson report, and everything else. You know, the principle that ethnic minorities and white Brits are getting treated in a different way, one with kid gloves, one with not, is frankly insane. I don't care if there's disparities in stop and search or whatever. And, you know, if you're a suspect or if you're a victim, you should be treated, you know, no matter what it is, no matter what you look like. And Henry was treated as a suspect, treated as a criminal because he was white.
Yeah, because someone said, use the race card.
Yep.
That's
well,
why.
Jack Hadfield, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Well, coming up next...
The Energy Secretary Ed Miliband wants you to give up your bacon sunnies to save the planet. Well, do you know what? I'm not going to. In fact, I'm going to have one today just
Please not live on air,
but not live on air. However, if I did do it live on air, at least I'd be able to eat it with more dignity.
Cut it up with a knife and fork.
Yeah. We're going to be discussing that more with Stephen Pound, and someone's asked me to say here, Mike Porky Parry. Mike, I didn't write that. They said that. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
We can allow.
Stop.
You think we can allow.
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel. 5 hosts,
5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racist tonight on the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back. It's 22 minutes past 10. You're watching Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
And before we get into talk to Mike and Steve, it's a great British giveaway. Plenty of time to get your chance to win £76,000, £543, and don't forget the 21p in tax. What would you do with the 21p?
That's a great question. I have no idea.
Not much you could do with 21p these days. Here's how you win it.
This is the chance to enjoy the summer of your dreams, as we could be making all of those dreams come true this year with a totally tax-free £76,543.21 in tax-free cash to be won. Someone really has to win it, and it could be you. What would you do with all that cash? That could be your year on us. Or find yourself in the lap of 5-star luxury. Somewhere like here, the Imperial Island Resort in Paphos. There's one guaranteed winner, and that really could be you. So make sure you don't miss out.
For a chance to win £76,543.21 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, we're now joined in the studio by the former Labour MP Stephen Pound and broadcaster and journalist Mike Parry to go through the papers. I mean, the main story, Stephen, today is this horrific murder, the fallout from it, protest last night. But an interesting comment piece in The Times, Sarah Ditum saying, don't let Farage hijack Henry Novak's death, referring, of course, to his statement yesterday where he said we should feel cold, hard rage about this murder.
Yes, and then Rupert Lowe immediately ups the ante by saying that Dogra should be hanged. But look, as far as I'm concerned, I think we should respect Henry Novak's family. they've suffered enough. They've suffered horrendously. And what they're saying is, please, please, don't make this a vehicle for people's political
I don't think they are. I'm sorry, I have to completely disagree.
They've said that.
I'm sorry. They made an amazing... The father of this poor boy made an amazing statement that I called dignified beyond belief, right? So. And he said everything in a neutral fashion.
100%.
But if you think the country is not going to feel cold rage, which I feel, and I think Farage, 8 o'clock yesterday morning, the Prime Minister of this country had not made a statement. Neither had any other credible figure in our so-called government. Mr. Farage stepped forward, and as far as I'm concerned, he was the voice of the nation. It is such an horrendous crime. I believe that the silent majority immediately perked up and said, "Do you know what? That's how I feel, but I'm frightened to say it, or I couldn't put it into words."
Stephen, hang on, why shouldn't he say it?
Yeah.
Why? You're saying he shouldn't have said it?
No, he's perfect inside. Don't forget, if you actually read what Nigel Farage actually said, he actually talked about respect for the family. But what actually does sicken me is those people who descended on the police station in Southampton yesterday. Actually, and these are agitators.
But Farage is being accused of playing the race card. He's not.
Yeah. Well, no. We know who played the race card. Vikram Degwa played the race card. But look, for me, there's a couple of things. Firstly, you talk about institutional racism, you talk about two-tier policing. Somebody mentioned the Macpherson report earlier. Anyone who's read Clive Driscoll or anybody who's involved in the Stephen Lawrence murder will know that there was absolute bone-deep institutional stone racism that's actually hindered the arrest. I think what we've done is we've overcorrected.
Of course we have. The pendulum has gone completely the other way, where you've now got classes at police college telling young would-be PCs DEI is the most important aspect of your job. And if a young PC puts his hand up and says, actually, I'd like to challenge that, you're off the course.
Like a retired Scottish police officer has said that. I don't think anybody else has said. But look, one of the many things...
He's a superintendent, I don't think he was talking nonsense.
One of the many things that come out of it, this is... You know, I worked in the health service for years. When you actually have a look at Henry Novak, look at the pictures, his hands were turning grey. The blood was being extracted because he was in trauma. Well, what happens with that? We all know this. The body starts to move the blood from the extremities to save you. The police officer should have spotted. The police officer actually said to him, when Henry Novak said, "I can't breathe, I've been stabbed," the police officer said, word for word, "I don't think you have, mate."
Shocking. But see, on this diversity training, look, the Police Anti-Racism Committee published last year specifically states, "A pursuit of justice does not mean treating everyone the same or being colourblind." In other words, you have to take their colour, take their black face or their brown face into account. No, it should be. We should all be treated equally, Stephen. It has. The pendulum's gone far too far.
I couldn't agree more.
And the Home Secretary says it's clumsy language. It's not, Stephen. It's much worse than that.
Andrew, I entirely agree with that. But what I'm saying is that this particular case flags up a whole range of awful issues. It's quite interesting if you actually have a look at Vikram Digwa. He's not wearing your traditional Sikh turban. He's actually wearing what we call the Khalistani one, the Kali Dal one. And he didn't use a kirpan. A kirpan in Punjabi just means defence. It's a little thing you wear around your neck. Kirpan, An, actually means defence, and Kurd.
But this is all a smokescreen, Stephen. If you're
hang on a second. The point is, what I want to say is, a lot of Sikh people in this country are also furious about this because they feel that their religion has been traduced. Specifically in Sikhism, you can never ever use a kirpan in anything other than defence.
Stephen, this is a smokescreen. We're talking about the police attitude to it.
There's a whole range of issues here.
No, the central issue is the one that Andrew's just raised.
That doesn't exclude everything else.
Council says, quotes, you don't have to treat all citizens equally. How on earth have we arrived at that point in this country?
Can we all agree that is overcorrection, to use the polite expression? And were it not so early in the day, I would use a different expression.
But it's so inbred now in the police service.
OK.
I believe you would have to go around sacking a dozen chief constables, scrap the police college, get rid of the DEI training, which is endemic within the police force. Do you know, some companies make millions and millions and millions of pounds by sending their so-called advisors into county police headquarters to give these lessons in DEI. Why aren't they giving them lessons in how to stop crime on the streets?
Well, I have to say, what about the police and crime commissioners? What are they doing about this?
They're being abolished, and good riddance.
So the point being, if you remember, when Reform started winning these 11 and 12 councils, they started saying, we'd get rid of all this DEI. But, there just aren't that many of them. I think there are a number of people who make a good living out of this, no question. And let's chuck that out the window now. Let's forget that. And let's get back to treating people equally as citizens valued in their own right. But this particular case does throw up a whole range of other issues. appalling police training in medical, and the response was appalling. And I have to say, the fact that this person was filming Henry Novak, getting off on it, and the people. I mean, I'm sorry.
Exactly. Stephen, earlier on outside, you described a group of people as leeches for latching on to the Farage speech. Who are the leeches?
The people who are outside the police station in Southampton. I'm sorry. What right did they have to actually impose their particular views on the streets in Southampton?
But it isn't a particular view. I mean, this is a particularly horrendous case, of course.
Is it helped by having people screaming on the street?
Stephen,
you don't think it stirs up anger in the community?
Are we helping anybody by having people screaming on the street, throwing wheelie bins at the police officers, throwing beer bottles at the police?
Let's distinguish between violence, which is illegal, throwing wheelie bins against police, completely wrong, and standing in a fixed position, protesting against outside a police station. You and I may not do that, but it's an absolute right in a democracy to be able to do it. And I think the problem here is that, Stephen, is that although this is a particularly horrific murder, of course, it's not a one-off in terms of how diversity training and a focus on not wanting to appear racist has caused an awful lot of problems. So, the Valdo Calacane murders, where he was not sectioned, probably because of his race. Or the security guard at the Manchester bombing, who didn't flag somebody he thought because he didn't want to appear racist. So I think until this moment, until this moment, perhaps some people, particularly on the left or centrists, think that fussing about culture wars is silly and we should just get on with it and do the training. But I think this is proof that ideas have consequences.
I agree. And I'm old enough, Stephen, to remember covering the Toxteth riots in Liverpool and the Brixton riots in London, both of which were massive riots. Whole streets were set ablaze and burnt down, and both happened because of either the arrest or the killing, not the murder, the killing of a black person. So that's what happened, and that's what prompted the Macpherson report eventually. But you quite rightly say it's now so ridiculously gone the other way.
Stephen, you will have a chance to respond next time, I promise. But we do have some more information from Hampshire Police now. They've told us that 11 officers and 1 police dog were injured after those violent clashes between its officers and protesters near where Henry Novak was stabbed to death in Southampton.
We'll bring you more on that throughout the programme. But first, we're going to get our 60-second news update with Aaron Armstrong.
Very good morning to you. The headlines from the GB Newsroom. 2 people have been arrested after violence in Southampton, during which hundreds of demonstrators gathered to protest against the treatment of Henry Novak, who was murdered last December. He was handcuffed despite having been fatally stabbed after his killer, Vikram Digba, falsely accused him of racism. 11 officers have been injured. A fragile ceasefire between the US and Iran has been tested again with a further exchange of fire. Kuwait says it intercepted a number of drones, but its international airport and terminal building were hit, causing a number of injuries. A Labour-led committee of MPs has called for the government to end its NHS data contract in England with the US tech giant Palantir. The company, co-founded and run by Alex Karp, has deep links in the US with defence and security. A new report suggests 3/4 of people are not on track for a moderate pension and face a cliff edge drop in income when they retire. Pensions UK is blaming rising bills and the cost of groceries for pushing up the cost of retirement. And the UK should prepare for what is likely to be a warmer than average summer. The Met Office has released its 3-month outlook and is forecasting an increased chance of heat waves. And you're up to date for the moment. More news coming up at 11 o'clock.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Up next, find out how Reform UK say they can make Britain a superpower in Europe all over again. One of their MPs, one of their cleverer MPs, joins us next. I think I can say that. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Good morning, this is your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. There's a big band of rain making its way across the country at the moment, but even away from that, there will be some pretty hefty showers and some strong gusty winds. Showers already across parts of Scotland and northeast England, but then this spell of persistent rain sweeps up from the southwest. Some relatively high rainfall totals with this, but then it's the showers following in behind across parts of Northern Ireland, much of England and Wales, and later into southern parts of Scotland, which could really pack a punch. Temperature-wise, well, they're near normal for the time of year, but watch out for some strong gusty winds with those showers. They will make it feel a little bit fresher, and definitely so much fresher than it was this time last week. Into this evening, and we still have some of that persistent rain across parts of Scotland. Northern areas a bit more showery, but across central areas it is going to be pretty wet here. And then looking further south, it's these intense thunderstorms that we need to watch out for. They're going to be pretty widespread. They're going to bring frequent lightning, often going to be thundery, and there'll be some large hail mixed in, especially across parts of northern England. Further south, even here the showers could be heavy and thundery at times, but there'll be slightly fewer of them with some drier, brighter, clearer breaks in between. Overnight, the showers continue. The heaviest ones will largely ease, but there will still be plenty of showers and still some strong, blustery, gusty winds, especially for the time of year. All that does mean temperatures won't drop a huge amount, so most places, particularly the towns and cities, holding up in double digits. But then Thursday's going to be another showery day. Perhaps the showers not quite as intense as some of the ones that we're likely to see through today, but nonetheless, there could still be some rumbles of thunder and some heavy ones mixed in. Any sunny spells will be pretty limited for most, perhaps some towards the south and southeast, but even here, showers will be pushing through and there will still be some strong gusty winds with temperatures, well, looking similar to today. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only watching and listening to our programmes, you're becoming part of them too.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. The A83 is restricted in both directions at Locknell Street, Loch Gilphead due to emergency roadworks. On the M4, speed restrictions remain between junction 22 at Pilning and the second Severn crossing to junction 30 at Cardiff Gate. Essex drivers on the M11 southbound between junctions 7 and 6 face delays from a road traffic collision, with 2 out of 3 lanes closed. In Devon, the A30 eastbound exit slip to the A386 is closed for road management work. And on the trains, disruptions occur on the Elizabeth line between Romford and Shenfield and the Gatwick Express between Haywards Heath and Brighton. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. It is 22 minutes to 11. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Reform UK say they will make Britain a great power all over again.
Well, the party wants to upgrade our nation from its regional heavyweight status to that of a leading economic, technical, diplomatic and security power in Europe.
Well, let's speak to Reform UK MP Danny Kruger, who is in charge of the policy renewal or policy platform for Reform UK. Mr Kruger, good morning. How on earth are you going to turn Britain, which is pretty much a featherweight boxing champion these days, into a super heavyweight? How do you do that?
Yeah, well put. I think we've got to start with that realism. You know, we are a regional heavyweight, actually. I mean, we've got some significant capabilities and powers and some global influence, but we're not at the top table. There's 5 nations that are recognised by the US, which is the premier nation, as being at the table, and we're not one of them. And the West is fragmenting, the US and Europe putting apart, while our antagonists, China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, are coming together. So we're in a bad way, and a generation of underinvestment in our armed forces. Also a procurement model, by the way, that invests in the wrong sort of kit, not the high-tech equipment that we need for the battlefield of the future. So we're going to change that by first recognising reality, second setting a clear doctrine of what we call active deterrence, which means hardening the target of the UK. Our own defences are so weak that we are almost inviting attack. We need to make it less sensible for our opponents to have a crack at us, whether that's directly through sort of what's called kinetic warfare, directly with military means, or in what's called the grey zone of civilian attacks on our infrastructure. and on IT. So we harden the target. And yes, we invest directly in our armed forces. We need to get rapidly up to that 3.5% of GDP, which is the new NATO target. But we need crucially to spend that money so much better than we do at the moment. And what we're suggesting is creating a new procurement function, not run by the MOD, taken out of the departments, and crucially investing in high-tech, cyber warfare, AI, which has got to be a leading UK asset. We could develop that, but we're behind the curve. And having a leadership and a people at the top of the MOD who know how to run a massive bureaucracy. We don't have that at the moment.
Now, Danny, in a speech on Monday, I think you gave at the Spectator, a summit on defence and security, you blamed some of our current woes on the abdication by politicians for strategic thinking to generals and the MOD. Well, I think a lot of our viewers might think that they'd prefer generals and army experts and the Ministry of Defence to be making those decisions than elected politicians who might know nothing about defence and security. How are you going to restore democratic control, but without losing that expertise?
Well, I mean, it's a fair challenge, Miriam, but it's a dangerous argument. Overall, our mission in government will be to restore democratic control over the levers of the state, whether it's in defence or in any other aspect of policy, energy, public services, environment, planning. The problem we have at the moment is that we have bureaucrats and officials in charge, not politicians. These are essentially political decisions we have to make. Yes, you need direct input, and you need to very much, particularly in defence, respect the expertise of the people who actually do the fighting. And I yield to no one in my respect for our armed forces. I represent a huge military constituency. Much the Salisbury Plain is in my patch. So yes, we've got to listen to the soldiers, sailors, people in the Air Force, and crucially in these other domains of cyber and space and so on. But no, we do need politicians ultimately in charge. But crucially, that really means a Prime Minister who has a vision for our country, understands our place in the world, is realistic about where we are, is prepared to build those pragmatic alliances to protect Britain's interests and to, fundamentally put Britain's national interest as the core priority of our foreign and defence policy. At the moment, you have a Foreign Office which is committed as its headline principle to promoting girls' education around the world, campaigning against the death penalty, to try to help with, birth control in the developing world. These second-order priorities are what our Foreign Office focus on, rather than doing deals with foreign countries and with foreign businesses to invest in the UK and to build strategic alliances to protect our national interests abroad. So we need a more resolute leadership. That is a political priority. And of course, properly harnessing the expertise, not just of defence, but of tech and the business community as well.
I'm glad you raised defence procurement because I can remember back in the 1980s, Margaret Thatcher despaired of the way defence procurement, everything was over budget, everything ran late. She brought in an industrialist called Peter Levine to try to change things. It didn't happen. So you say you're going to take procurement outside the Ministry of Defence. Does that mean you're going to employ industrialists or military experts outside of the Ministry of Defence to effectively order our military equipment?
Well, listen, it's an option that we're looking at. I'm very conscious of that problem, and everybody reports it. And while we debate on one hand, we need to increase defence spending, which absolutely we do. We've imagined that we can have defence on the cheap for 30 years. But the real problem is that this money we spend at the moment is wasted. We're investing in kit that is going to be obsolete by the time it is delivered. Often it doesn't work at all, as with this scandal of the Ajax armoured personnel carriers, 8 billion quid wasted on a bit of kit that doesn't work. So we need a better model of procurement that keeps costs under control, and crucially that can what they call spiral, which means that it's not enough just to say in 20 years' time we're going to need such and such. What we need is to develop platforms quickly that we can then build on as technology develops, improve the capabilities of what we have in real time, as the Ukrainians have done. I mean, the lesson of the Ukraine war is so helpful to us, and actually the UK is benefiting already from that because of our partnership there. We can really learn about how to develop kit quickly in a much more distributed way with lots of SMEs, small businesses, which we have in this country, and again in Wiltshire, where I represent, amazing companies developing drones really quickly. The problem is the procurement system at the moment can't work well with SMEs, can't innovate quickly, can't commission and procure at pace and at speed. So that's the model we need to change. And yes, there may be a way of doing it better by lifting that function out of the bureaucracy of the MOD and giving it to business people who can work in a more agile way.
Can I ask you just finally, Labour ministers today and various others have accused Nigel Farage, your leader, of exploiting the Henry Novak murder, the shocking murder of Henry Novak, for political gain. What do you say to that?
Well, listen, here we are on the news discussing it. It's an absolute tragedy and fundamentally a personal tragedy, but it has direct political implications. It's a national news story. It's quite appropriate that we and other politicians talk about what has happened here. And what it does seem to have happened here is it's a tragic consequence of a culture from the top in British policing that comes, I'm afraid, from successive governments that have preferenced community cohesion, racial sensitivities over the equal treatment of the rule of law. So this is a political question. There are lessons to be learned. We've got to reform the way the police operate. That's what Nigel is calling for. And I'm afraid it's a distraction, a classic diversion tactic from our political opponents and people on the left, the people who are responsible for this model of two-tier policing that we have, to start telling us what we can and can't talk about, rather than talking about the fundamental issue of what happened to this poor boy and how to stop it ever happening again.
That's Danny Kruger, the Reform UK MP. Thank you so much for coming on to talk to us.
Thank you both.
Well, coming up next, the ONS have released their latest stats on workless households. Have the figures gone up or down? I expect you can guess.
I bet they've gone down. Up, sorry. I meant up.
I thought you were being
not being
an
ironic.
optimist for once.
No. But first, if you want some elusive holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of our top European destinations.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
It's a bit of a mixed picture across southern Europe looking ahead to tomorrow. There is some rain around, but lots of places largely dry. Most of the rain's across Greece at the moment, not southern parts of Greece, dry here, but further north outbreaks of rain. Mostly dry for Italy, but across southern parts of France, northern parts of Spain, there'll be some rain. Mostly dry for more southern areas and across much of Portugal, even the Canaries and Madeira having largely dry weather. More fine weather for most as we go through into the weekend. See you later.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Baking award-winning biscuits. Sawley Kitchen handcraft a variety of shortbreads, cookies and ginger thins. And the North Yorkshire Bakery is celebrating National Biscuit Day.
I mean, a whole day dedicated to the biscuit, like you have to, right? I think it just allows us to slow down a bit. We're a nation of tea lovers, we like a nice brew, and it's just having that little thing on the side. And for us, we only use the best ingredients, top quality stuff, because we know how important a good biscuit is to go with that brew.
The artisan family business prides itself on how their biscuits are made and the inspiration behind them.
So we take traditional biscuits like cookies, ginger thins, and put our own spin on it. And I'd probably say that ginger thins are the most popular. When you snap it, that noise is amazing.
Down the road from the bakery, we asked the people of Ripon for their opinion.
Well, it's probably a Jaffa cake, but that might be a bit controversial, mightn't it? Because some people say it's not a biscuit, but that's my favourite. I always used to have it when I used to go and visit my nan when I was a kid.
Definitely a chocolate hobnob. It's comforting. And no, I'm not a dunker.
Jaffa cake.
Why is it your favourite?
Because it has jelly inside it.
Chocolate hobnob. I just like the texture of the hobnob, actually.
Chocolate digestive. Lovely creamy chocolate, crunchy biscuit.
Jaffa cake, because it's nice and soft and it's got a lovely filling and they're always the same.
So whether you opt for a bourbon or a Biscoff, today is the perfect excuse to bring out the biscuits. And it's up to you if you dip them in a cuppa or two.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 10 to 11 and you're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
The Office for National Statistics has released its latest employment figures ranging from January to March, the last quarter.
Well, the data shows that Britain's unemployment rate and number of vacancies have risen, leading to concerns that the Iran war has begun to take its toll on the nation.
Let's talk to Simon Hunt, who is the city editor at City AM. Simon, explain these figures. What do they mean? How many people are unemployed? And is the arc going upwards?
So indeed, we are seeing a gradual increase of unemployment and also a fewer job vacancies available for people. Also looking at the ONS data on worklessness, it also looks like the level of workless households is up about 5% on where it was a year ago. So not massive shifts, but I suppose the more alarming thing is the direction of travel. We are 2 years into the 5-year term of this government, and so far each successive data release seems to be slightly worse than the previous one. So that does raise concerns about where we might be, by the end of the decade. Of course, some of the factors that contribute to this are very sort of near-term, very immediate things, such as the outbreak of war in Iran earlier this year, which caused a lot of uncertainty among businesses. It caused energy prices to go up. It caused concerns about inflation. And at times of uncertainty, employers tend to turn off the taps in terms of hiring and delay investment decisions. But there are also longer-term impacts as well, which are largely government-driven. Things like higher taxes, higher minimum wages, increasing national insurance contributions that just make it more difficult to employ people for those that want to.
Now, Simon, this is a relatively small increase, and to draw any conclusions from it, we do need to be sure that the data behind it is valid. And I know there have been some concerns about the labour force survey in recent years, that it's no longer particularly accurate. Are you confident about the data behind this new release?
Well, this is something that has been a subject of discussion among economists, and also the ONS or National Statistics Office themselves have admitted there are flaws or gaps in the data. This does make it very difficult for policymakers to draw conclusions and also to make informed policy decisions. Now, there's sort of different question about how to resolve this. One argument that's been made is a lot of the work of the ONS been pushed out of London into areas in which there are fewer skilled economists, and that just makes it harder for them to recruit the people that they need to get the best quality, to produce the best quality data. And certainly, I've heard reports, and anecdotally I've been told by top banks and top London businesses that they are increasingly using their own data or trying to source their own data rather than relying on nationally produced numbers, because they don't know how much they can rely on them.
Just briefly, Simon, of course, we know from Wes Streeting, who was in the Cabinet until a few weeks ago, that he now says that the increase in employers' national insurance was a mistake and it has had an impact on job creation.
Yeah, and I think that is the consensus now among almost all economists. If you want to increase unemployment, the easiest way to do that from a government perspective would be to make it much more expensive to employ people. And so it's a very strong disincentive on the part of employers. And so, it's quite surprising that...
Simon, I'm so sorry. I am going to have to cut in. We have reached the end of the time. But thank you so much, Simon Hunt, for joining us this morning. Lots to come, including PMQs. We're not going to miss that today. It's Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, this is your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. There's a big band of rain making its way across the country at the moment, but even away from that, there will be some pretty hefty showers and some strong gusty winds. Showers already across parts of Scotland and northeast England, but then this spell of persistent rain sweeps up from the southwest. Some relatively high rainfall totals with this, but then it's the showers following in behind across parts of Northern Ireland, much of England and Wales, and later into southern parts of Scotland, which could really pack a punch. Temperature-wise, well, they're near normal for the time of year, but watch out for some strong gusty winds with those showers. They will make it feel a little bit fresher, and definitely so much fresher than it was this time last week. Into this evening, and we still have some of that persistent rain across parts of Scotland. Northern areas a bit more showery, but across central areas it is going to be pretty wet here. And then looking further south, it's these intense thunderstorms that we need to watch out for. They're going to be pretty widespread. They're going to bring frequent lightning, often going to be thundery, and there'll be some large hail mixed in, especially across parts of northern England. Further south, even here the showers could be heavy and thundery at times, but there'll be slightly fewer of them with some drier, brighter, clearer breaks in between. Overnight, the showers continue. The heaviest ones will largely ease, but there will still be plenty of showers and still some strong, blustery, gusty winds, especially for the time of year. All that does mean temperatures won't drop a huge amount, so most places, particularly the towns and cities, holding up in double digits. But then Thursday's going to be another showery day. Perhaps the showers not quite as intense as some of the ones that we're likely to see through today, but nonetheless, there could still be some rumbles of thunder and some heavy ones mixed in. Any sunny spells will be pretty limited for most, perhaps some towards the south and southeast, but even here showers will be pushing through and there will still be some strong gusty winds with temperatures, well, looking similar to today. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
We're counting down to a spectacular summer. It's your chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in totally tax-free cash. A lump sum that you could have in time to splash out with this summer. And because it's tax-free, you get to keep every single penny. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me. What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline.
Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel. As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
the late edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
Because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, late edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, late edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time. But I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Good morning, it's 11 o'clock on Wednesday the 3rd of June, live across the UK. Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, fury erupted in Southampton last night over claims of two-tier policing in the wake of the murder of Henry Novak.
I can't breathe! I can't breathe! I can't breathe! I can't breathe! Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you!
Protesters threw bottles, bricks and even wheelie bins at the police as the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood condemned the disorder.
I have seen the body cam footage. It's harrowing, and I have to say, as a father of a 17-year-old boy, I felt sick.
Well, that was the Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer reacting to the harrowing body cam footage as police forces now face calls to drop racial bias policies after that murder.
And in other significant news, a chemical industry director tells GBNews the sector is in grave danger if the government don't do more to tackle soaring energy costs.
Impact that the UK is having on global decarbonisation is I'm afraid it's insignificant relative to other countries. So why are we punishing UK manufacturing to look good?
And bacon sarnies under attack. Energy Secretary Ed Miliband wants you to give up the rashes to save the planet.
And don't forget, we're coming up to Prime Minister's questions at noon today. Don't miss it, because I think it's going to be very stormy and it will almost certainly be dominated by what happened in Southampton.
But we're going to be seeing a package later on about the chemical industry and how high energy prices are putting jobs at risk.
Yeah, and that guy who's talking to our very own Charlie Peters is making a very good point. Our impact on global climate change it's so minuscule, and yet we're punishing not just householders with our electricity and gas bills, but major manufacturers being punished in the government's obsession. It's ideological, frankly.
And some of these industries, like the chemical industry, like the ceramics industry, which Charlie visited a few weeks ago, they were core to our industrial heartlands, providing jobs, but also giving us exports abroad that made the country wealthier, and we're at risk of losing all of that.
We certainly are. As ever, we want to know what you think, of course, and don't forget, it's Prime Minister's Questions coming up later today.
But first of all, here's the news with Aaron Armstrong.
Very good morning to you. It's 2 minutes past 11. And the top stories from the GB Newsroom. Hampshire police say 11 officers and a police dog were injured after violent clashes with protesters near where Henry Novak was stabbed to death in Southampton. Hundreds gathered outside the main police station yesterday. It erupted into violence as officers were pelted with bricks and stones. 2 people have been arrested. The Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, says there's no justification for hijacking the tragedy to fuel disorder. She described the scenes as completely unacceptable. Mr Novak was handcuffed and arrested last December after being fatally stabbed by his killer, Vikram Digwa, who lied to police that he'd been racially attacked. One of the 4 officers involved has now resigned. The others remain on frontline duty. The Conservatives say it's right that controversial guidance advising officers to treat ethnic minorities differently to ensure equality of outcomes is to be reviewed.
This is not an isolated example, and our criminal justice system and our law enforcement are being corrupted by political correctness and by left-wing ideologies that talk about equity rather than equality. They say that we need to treat people differently on the basis of their racial and their religious identity. That has to be completely wrong. If you believe in the rule of law, you have to believe in equality before the law, and that's what we need to get back to.
Policing Minister Sarah Jones has appealed for calm in the wake of the riots and has rejected accusations of 2-tier policing.
My view as policing minister is that everybody is equal under the law. My view is that the vast majority of police officers who we ask to run into danger do so with professionalism and bravery, and that our policing by consent model is the right one, where we take that always striving for equality under the law. That is the fundamental basis on which our tolerant society exists, and that is what we must fight for. My point is that it is not the answer to turn to division and violence.
The US and Iran have exchanged fresh missiles and drone strikes, further jeopardising efforts to secure a ceasefire. The US military says it carried out self-defence strikes on Qeshm Island in the Strait of Hormuz after Tehran launched missiles towards Kuwait and Bahrain. Flights have been suspended in Kuwait after an Iranian drone hit the international airport, injuring several people. The US also released footage of a strike against an oil tanker that was attempting to sail towards an Iranian port in the Gulf. The latest attacks come amid stalled ceasefire negotiations after talks over the weekend failed to advance a deal. Sir Keir Starmer is set to face renewed scrutiny over cracks in his government and his use of disappearing messages. The Prime Minister's weekly appearance in the Commons will be the first opportunity MPs have to grill him about newly released Mandelson documents, which revealed senior ministers admitting their frustrations with his leadership. The Prime Minister yesterday defended his use of disappearing messages on WhatsApp. More than 1,500 documents were released this week, but that contained just one page of correspondence between Sir Keir and the disgraced peer. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister will meet alleged victims of the former Harrods owner, Mohammed Al Fayed, later. Survivors are calling for greater accountability over what they've described as decades of institutional rape and sexual abuse associated with Harrods. More than 400 allegations of misconduct have been made against Al Fayed, dating back to 1977. A Labour-led committee of MPs has called for the government to end its NHS data contract in England with the US tech giant Palantir. The company, co-founded and run by Alex Karp, has deep links in the US with defence and security firms. The Commons Science, Innovation and Technology Committees accused Palantir of having a clear mismatch with British values, warning that Palantir's role in public services is an unacceptable point of weakness and potentially leaves information at the mercy of foreign actors. A new report suggests 3/4 of people face a cliff-edge drop in income when they retire. Pensions UK says only 23% of people are on track for a moderate lifestyle, which it estimates would cost £32,500 per year for one person and £45,000 for two. It blames rising bills and grocery prices for pushing up the cost of retirement. The report found just 9% of us will be able to afford a comfortable lifestyle, which it estimates will cost almost £63,000 for a couple. And the UK should prepare for what's likely to be a warmer than average summer. The Met Office has released its 3-month outlook. It's forecasting an increased chance of heat waves. England and Wales had their warmest spring on record this year, thanks partly to an exceptionally early heat wave last month. A new all-time record of 35.1 degrees was set in Kew Gardens in London, replacing the previous record set for May in 1944. You're up to date with the headlines. More a little later.
Taking the ups and downs in our stride. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Take a quick look at the finance for you. A pound will buy you $1.34 and €1.16. Gold costs £3,304 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is trading at 10,346 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Now to recap, protests erupted in Southampton yesterday as pressure mounts on the police. And effectively, it's the government to give them the order to drop, frankly, overemphasised diversity policies. Have a listen to what happened.
But eventually those protests did turn violent and the police were pelted with bricks, bottles and bins. Well, the Home Secretary has branded the scenes as unacceptable as officers clashed with around 1,000 demonstrators.
GB News South of England reporter Isabel Fekalak joins us now from Southampton to give us an update. Isabel, all calm at the moment.
Yes, good morning to you both again. I'm here at Portswood Police Station where these protests last night began to turn violent. These streets where I'm stood now filled with thousands of people who showed up to protest against the police's handling of the Henry Novak murder case. You can see behind me flowers left outside Portswood Police Station, some signs there, a photo of Henry Novak, as well as a sign that says safety is a right, not a privilege. This police station is just round the corner from where Henry Novak was murdered by Vikram Digwa on the 3rd of December. Of course, he was sentenced this week on Monday to life imprisonment with 21 years as a minimum period. These protests last night that we saw, as you say, turning violent with 11 police officers injured and 1 police dog injured as well. We had a written statement from Hampshire Police, from the Chief Constable Alex Boone, where he said that we as a society cannot accept the violent scenes that we saw in Southampton last night. He said that the 11 officers and that 1 police dog were injured and that 2 arrests were made, and that number will rise as investigations continue. He goes on to say that he knows since the release of that body cam footage from the night of Henry Novak's murder, there's a desire for answers and accountability, but that must be done in the right way and not used as an excuse to threaten and intimidate any officers or bring violence to the streets. Of course, police handed themselves into the Independent Office of Police Conduct immediately after that incident on that night. That body cam footage was released a couple of nights ago, and it has shocked the nation and the world. In that footage, Henry is heard saying that he has been stabbed, that he can't breathe. Last night, protesters chanting in unison, "I can't breathe," some of those last words from Henry Novak. Also chanting, "Shame on you," towards the police officers who were intimidated. Bins were set on fire, bottles thrown at them. A police vehicle was surrounded by protesters shouting out some. So this protest, starting off peaceful, turned violent. 2 arrests were made, but many just showing up to stand up for Henry Novak, for his family, and to seek justice.
Isabel Fekalak in Southampton, thank you so much for that report. Well, we're joined now by the Director of the Institute of Economic Affairs, Dan Hannan. Dan, good morning. Thank you so much for coming on Britain's Newsroom. Now, you've actually written about the Novak case a few days ago, before the body cam footage was released, warning that there was a huge disparity between the way that we reacted to the 2020 killing of George Floyd and this British version, if you like, with Henry Novak. Can you tell us a bit more of your thoughts on this matter?
Yes, it does seem extraordinary that we were so much more affected by a death in custody 4,000 miles away with zero implications, zero policy implications for this country, rather than one that happened at home, especially when no one has ever credibly established that the George Floyd killing, tragic as it was the result of an institutional problem in the American police. I think the American police, to British eyes, are trigger-happy and use excessive force, but it did not follow that they were institutionally racist. And indeed, if you look at the officers involved in the Floyd killing, 1 was black, 1 was Asian, and 2 were white. In the Novak case, by contrast, I think we are dealing with what is plainly an institutional problem in the exact sense of the word. In other words, that the police, in common with a lot of the public sector, has been trained to think in a particular way about DEI, about racist use in particular, and this is impacting their behavior with occasionally tragic consequences. So you come on a crime scene and you are conditioned to believe the non-white assailant over the non-white victim because you've been taught that being accused of racial insensitivity is almost the surest way to cut short a career in the police force.
And Dan, it's interesting you mention what happened to George Floyd, which has zero political or policy implications in this country, and yet we know, because we've read it, that the Hampshire Police Diversity Manual, if you like, describes what happened to George Floyd as a profound moment for policing in Britain and Hampshire. No, it didn't.
Yeah. Absolutely extraordinary. I mean, this has been a problem. I am a Hampshire resident. This is my police force. We've had issues before. I remember when I was a candidate in a European election, one of the candidates against me read out a speech by Churchill on the steps of the Guildhall at Winchester in which he says disobliging things about Islam. And he was like arrested, you know, literally a candidate making a speech. That's the definition of a political arrest. I was like, hang on, why does it fall to me to point out that we're Britain and not Burma, right? He was standing against me. And yet, so the Hampshire police, I'm afraid, have form on this. They once felt the collar of a guy who during an election had got so fed up with being canvassed that he put a sign up saying, "Get them all out." And this was regarded as racist and offensive. So this has not come out of nowhere. And I'm afraid these little steps have led to worse and worse outcomes. So what does the George Floyd thing have to do with us? Absolutely nothing. And yet our police forces, like a lot of our corporates, a lot of our politicians, and much of our public sector, were cosplaying at being desegregationist American Southerners. And this, for me, culminated in the sight that would have almost been funny in other circumstances in the summer of 2020, that demented BLM summer of 2020, of a white British BLM crowd in Whitehall shouting, "Hands up, don't shoot," at unarmed Metropolitan coppers. And that's the problem we've imported because it suits the narrative, this fundamentally American row. And as we see, it's had tragic consequences at home.
But although the BLM summer, as you call it, certainly accelerated the anti-racism movement, there were many signs of it for a long time before then, people fearing being accused of racism. You point out in your article in 2017 that before the Manchester Arena bombing, one of the security guards didn't alert authorities to what he called the dodgy behaviour of the attacker because he didn't want to be accused of racial profiling. These fears of being called racist go back a long, long way. I can remember even to being at school in the 90s, being called a racist was probably one of the worst things you could be accused of at school. What is the root of this? Where does this come from?
Yes, I mean, in the public sector, it is career-ending, and it is one of the very few things that actually can result in you losing your job if you are an otherwise unsackable government employee. So you give the example, that tragic, awful case of the Manchester Arena guard. I mean, he was no older than Henry Novak, that security guard. He's going to have to carry that for the rest of his life. But can we honestly say that we're surprised that he found the prospect of being sacked for being racially insensitive a much more imaginable, much more tangible and real prospect than, let's be honest, a very hard to imagine terrorist atrocity. And so he was, if you like, following the incentives. Think of the Valdo Calacane murders. The authorities in Nottingham knew that he was dangerous, but were deterred by, as they put it, evidence that there were too many black men who'd been sectioned under mental health laws. Or, you know, think of the Axel Rudel Cabana case, where the headmistress in Ormskirk said, there is something wrong here. This boy keeps bringing a knife to school. He seems to have an animus against white kids. And she was told, you're stereotyping him as a black boy with a knife. So literally lethal consequences. And I think the only way of explaining this is that we have sacralized anti-racism. We've elevated it and given it a quasi-religious status in a largely post-religious age, so that it's valued not in any proportion to the good it's doing or to the harms that it was supposedly addressing. It's become an end in itself, and speaking out against it is treated not as making a mistake, but as a kind of blasphemy. And people respond by excommunication. And that knowledge, I'm afraid, is skewing the behavior of our public sector and our police in particular, with, as we see, sometimes literally fatal consequences.
Well, Daniel Hannan, the Director of the Institute of Economic Affairs, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
doesn't he speak well and make his
brilliantly.
point so well?
Yeah, and it does go back such a long way.
Yeah.
But it's concerning because it's going to take a long time to root out, even with the political will to do it, which there isn't yet, not unanimously on left and right.
Well, there's a story in the paper today about, in going back to the Supreme Court ruling on trans spaces, women-owned spaces, how a lot of Labour MPs are continuing to resist it. Even though the laws, that's what the Supreme Court said.
That's right, and refusing to call it two-tier policing. I mean, you could come up with a different name for it if you like, but written in the police guidance is to treat people differently as a result of their ethnicity. So the police have self-prescribed their own two-tier policing.
With the connivance, I'm afraid, of our political class.
Absolutely. And I think there was certainly a time in the 2010s where what we would now call woke nonsense was seen as, virtue signalling. What's the harm? We might as well show that we're nice people. And I think too many people didn't realise that ideas have consequences. You can't just tick a box. If you train an entire generation in these ideas, there will be consequences.
And a lot of these problems go back to the coalition, I'm afraid, where the Conservatives, led by David Cameron, tried to be more liberal than the Liberals.
And, of course, the Equality Act, which was snuck in just before that election and was never
And the
repealed.
Tories didn't repeal it or even really amend it.
Well, I am the last person to defend that government, but I don't think they could have done it in coalition with the Lib Dems.
No, they couldn't.
There's no way the Lib Dems would have allowed that.
But they didn't say in their manifesto in 2015,
No, that's
we will
right,
change it.
and they could have done that.
They could have done that. And remember, Harriet Harman, who was the mistress, the architect of that Equality Act, has been brought back by Keir Starmer as an advisor, which tells you everything about the mindset of this government.
Well, some people who aren't concerned about woke and diversity are England football players. They've headed off to the World Cup in style. Now, they've been seen with some rather expensive luggage, different handbags, and you will not believe
And by the way,
prices.
these are not the WAGs, so-called WAGs handbags. These are the players' handbags. Pathetic.
I don't think it's very masculine. Anyway.
Oh, God. But we're going to tell you how much they cost because they're eye-watering. Mike Parry, that great fashionista, and Stephen Pound, that other great fashionista, they'll be giving their verdict in Britain's Newsroom on GB News after this.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late night TV shows. We're giving you a front row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back. It's 25 past 11. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
You don't understand the double entendres we have to endure from Stephen Pound. He is Labour's answer to Frankie flipping Howard.
Oh, dear me.
Stephen Pound on my left, politically as well, and Mike Pound. Right. Now, Mike, we put a picture, for those who listen on the radio, we put some handbags on the television screen. Can you tell us why they are significant?
Well, it's quite incredible. We're talking about Hermes Birkin handbag, £35,000.
Hermes Birkin? Who does he play for?
Well, no. The Hermes handbag was designed by Jane Birkin. You're old enough to remember Jane Birkin and Serge Gainsbourg. OK, you know, Je t'aime, right?
Et maintenant.
So that's a very famous bag. We're also talking about a Louis Vuitton Speedy for £18,000. Now you say, is this the England women's football team? No, it's the England men's football team. And I've been around in football for so long, I remember when players used to get off the bus with a little plastic bag which had, you know, a sponge in it and probably their boots, right? And it would cost about 12 bob from Boots or something like that. These bags are costing up to £35,000.
There's one for 65,000, I think.
There is one for 65. There's a Zobazalski Hermes for 35,000, but the King one, Ollie Watkins, very successful footballer in this country, the Hermes Birkin, £65,000. And these boys are absolutely shameless. They get off these luxury coaches, clutching these bags. Don't know what's in them, but there's some cosmetics and all sorts of things.
But I have to say, when I saw this first, my first thought was, has Peter Murrell actually been buying it looked like the Peter Murrell shopping list.
They're getting off the plane or they're going to the World Cup with this bag. But I don't know. This bloke, Ollie Watkins. Ollie Watkins.
Ex-Brentford
He plays
player.
for Aston Villa. He's sporting a £65,000 bag. It's a Birmingham football team. The average salary, Mike, in Birmingham is £33,000.
Exactly.
I think he's insulting the intelligence of the supporters.
I'm sorry, for once I have to disagree with you. That sounds like a bit of class envy to me. I have no class envy for footballers. They have unique skills. They're paid very highly.
Do they earn are they worth £1 million a month?
Well, the
yes,
market
they are.
says yes, Steve.
Yes, they are.
So let them eat cake is what this is all about, isn't it?
No, the point is,
They're not allowed to eat cake.
if somebody paid you,
let them eat brioche then.
if somebody paid you £1 million a month, you'd say yes. Why would they ever say no? It's all supply and demand.
Do you think they're getting the Birkin are giving them these bags to get the publicity?
Well, there's bound to be some sort of deal like that. I mean, most international models like Naomi Campbell and all that don't buy anything.
Exactly.
You know, they wear this dress, carry that bag, and all kinds of stuff. I'm not sure.
Who makes your shirts, Mike?
Well, let me tell you this.
I've touched it.
I am a man with quite luxurious tastes as well, because one of my golf bags is in fact a Louis Vuitton bag.
Oh God, we're not worthy. We are not worthy.
I got it.
I put my football kit in a Tesco bag.
£1,000.
£1,000 for a golf bag? Is that worth more than the golf clubs?
Without a shadow of a doubt.
Right.
But it's not the big golf bag.
But he says he owns a golf club. He means Wentworth.
If I go to the driving range, I might take one driver, you know, and a putter to practice and all that. So it takes 3 or 4 clubs. I sling it on my back and I walk, you know, quite proudly through my.
I've got a sandwich.
No,
it's a sandwich.
Did you know our middle-aged beach? What do you call it?
Babe magnet.
Babe magnet.
Middle-aged babe magnet.
Is it also a role model for Louis Vuitton?
Yeah.
Stephen, can you match that?
Listen,
I have to say, I'm going to believe something impossible before breakfast every day, but I have to say, this is it. The idea of Mike like actually they're swinging his Massey and his Niblick out there being sponsored.
Oh my goodness.
But if anybody's...
I'm just looking at the time and thinking we might have to end this discussion.
What is a Niblick, by the way?
I do think, though, I just think...
No, it's
not a great look.
Honestly, it is the world today of football. The other day, Raheem Sterling was involved in a bit of a story.
Yeah, the clue's in the surname.
Yeah, but one of the facts in the story is he was paid £325,000 a week. That's the sort of level these footballers are paid at.
I'm doing something wrong because I'm not interested in any of it.
Who sends you your clothes, Andrew? That's what I want to know. Well,
all myself.
Indeed. Well,
I did get a lovely free tie. I did get a lovely tie from a viewer the other day. So if you're watching, thank you very much. It's very nice. I wore it yesterday, actually.
Oh, very good. Well, thank you, Mike and Stephen. Don't
keeping
forget,
your trousers
it's
up?
Prime Minister's Questions at midday. We want your questions for the Prime Minister. Send them to gbnews.com/your say. Stick with us on GB News.
Hello, very good day to you. This is your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Persistent rain, thundery showers, blustery winds. There's a lot going on through the rest of today. There's currently a weather system that's already made its way into western parts. It's going to push further east and northeastwards through today, bringing some persistent and at times heavy rain to many places. Across northern areas, it's currently quite cloudy, some low clouds, some murkiness here. That is going to lift a little bit as that persistent rain pushes in. And then elsewhere, as the rain clears through, there will be plenty of showers following in behind, some of them heavy and thundery. Temperatures are going to be around average for the time of year, high teens, low 20s, that kind of thing. But do bear in mind there will be some strong blustery winds mixed in with those showers. Those winds a bit stronger than you might expect for the time of year. A pretty wet evening across much of Scotland. Northern areas having some persistent rain. Further south, it's a showery picture, but plenty of showers. Some heavy, some thundery, some large hail, frequent lightning to watch out for. A similar story across much of Northern Ireland and Northern England. Slightly fewer showers across the rest of England and Wales, but even here there will be quite a few showers just across some eastern parts. A greater chance of seeing some sunshine to end the day. Then overnight we will have plenty more showers rattling their way through. Perhaps not quite as heavy or as intense as we've seen during the daytime, but worth bearing in mind those showers could be merging into some longer spells of rain across some western, northwestern parts. It is going to stay quite blustery, temperatures not dropping a huge amount, most places staying in double digits. Then through Thursday, well, it is a mixed picture really. There'll be outbreaks of showery rain coming in from the west. The showers don't look as intense as we've seen through today, but nonetheless still the possibility of a few rumbles of thunder and a bit of hail mixed in, and all the while there will be some blustery winds to go with that as well. Temperatures, if anything, down a degree or so compared to today. Bye-bye.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on the
unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Well, coming up next, both bacon sandwiches and the chemical industry are under threat from crazy net zero goals.
First, we're going to get a 6-second news update with Aaron Armstrong.
Very good morning to the headlines from the GB Newsroom. 11 officers and a police dog were injured during violent clashes with protesters near where Henry Novak was murdered in Southampton. 2 people were arrested. Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood has condemned the disorder as completely unacceptable. Sir Keir Starmer set to face renewed scrutiny over cracks in his government and his use of disappearing messages at Prime Minister's questions. Earlier this week, newly released messages revealed senior ministers admitting their frustrations with his leadership. Fragile ceasefire between the US and Iran has been tested again with a further exchange of fire. Kuwait says it intercepted a number of drones, but its international airport and terminal building were hit, causing a number of injuries. A new report suggests 3/4 of people are not on track for a moderate pension and face a cliff edge drop in income when they retire. Pensions UK is blaming rising bills and the rising cost of groceries. And the UK should prepare for what's likely to be a hotter than average summer. The Met Office has released its 3-month outlook and is forecasting an increased chance of heat waves. You're up to date for the moment. More news coming up for you a little later.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
It's 11:34. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, this is a really interesting story. A chemical industry director has warned that the entire sector is in what he says is grave danger of major job losses unless the government does something to tackle soaring energy costs. As you know, they're most expensive in Europe by a long mile.
Indeed. Well, GB News' national reporter Charlie Peters has this report.
In the heart of the West Midlands, Robinson Brothers makes products that touch almost every part of modern life. 80% of production here is exported around the world. But Adrian Hanrahan, the firm's managing director, has warned that they are fighting to cling on to business.
We really want to stay here, but we're existing and surviving in spite of successive governments. But we are committed to this area. I don't see our people as employees. I see that we are supporting 150 families in this area. It's cost for us, and it really is. It's crucifying us, and it's making us so uncompetitive.
That main cost is energy prices. Since the Ukraine war, emissions from Britain's chemicals sector have fallen by 60%. But the trade body said that more than 90% of the reduction came from deindustrialisation.
Now, Robinson Brothers has been on this site for over 150 years. It has endured world wars and economic catastrophes over the years. But it's warning that since the energy shock since 2022, it's already lost around 100 jobs. It fears that more will follow if action is not taken. And that is the warning that was issued by the Chemical Industries Association earlier this year.
The chemicals sector is among the most energy intensive in Britain, and all that energy fuels annual exports worth at least £61 billion and the employment of more than 150,000 people in the UK.
We are trying to gallop towards this net zero, and I think we are trampling over industries and stamping on them.
Last week, the government announced a £350 million critical chemicals resilience fund to support strategically important producers. Business Secretary Peter Kyle called it evidence of what, in his words, a strategic state looks like. The Chemicals Industry Association welcomed this, but has lobbied for further relief on carbon taxes levied on electricity generators.
I would really like to see a reprieve on those, because the impact that the UK is having on global decarbonisation is I'm afraid it's insignificant relative to other countries. So why are we punishing UK manufacturing to look good, whereas the net benefit is practically zero? And I don't think politicians get that. It's a soundbite. It's an ideology. I get really upset by it, because I just feel that we're losing good industries from the UK to other countries where environmental protection and human protection is not as great.
Adrian Hanrahan has a simple message for ministers dealing with industry and energy. Come here, walk the factory floors and talk to the families that risk losing their livelihoods due to energy prices. Charlie Peters, GB News in West Bromwich.
Fascinating, really fascinating, and we are being punished, as that guy said, because of an ideological commitment of this government to try and commendable about net zero, but it's a minuscule impact.
Absolutely. And we urgently need to increase the amount of stuff we produce and export. And how can we possibly...
Growth, baby,
when it's not,
growth, remember?
growth,
that was the Chancellor's mantra when she got into power, and there's been very little growth whatsoever.
Well, coming up next, the Work and Pensions Secretary, Pat McFadden, has spoken to GB News this morning. We'll be bringing that to you in just a few minutes.
He's the one, of course, who was discovered from the Manderson tape, says he's for every meeting he goes with Labour and Peace, they ask for more money for benefit spending. Funny, that.
Well, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of our top European destinations.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
It's a bit of a mixed picture across southern Europe looking ahead to tomorrow. There is some rain around, but lots of places largely dry. Most of the rain's across Greece at the moment, not southern parts of Greece, dry here, but further north outbreaks of rain. Mostly dry for Italy, but across southern parts of France, northern parts of Spain, there'll be some rain. Mostly dry for more southern areas and across much of Portugal, even the Canaries and Madeira having largely dry weather. More fine weather for most as we go through into the weekend. See you later.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis, in the car,
in the kitchen,
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again
to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
I'm a bit worried about the future of the biscuit because it seems that people aren't really drinking tea in this country anymore. And I think you really need a cup of tea with a biscuit, but we're all coffee drinkers these days.
Yeah, I mean, this might be a bit controversial, but I like a cup of coffee with a biscuit. But so I think it's fine. I think it's just, you know, things can kind of develop and change, and that's okay. But I think what doesn't change is that biscuits are such a sort of important part of the kind of bedrock of our culture. I mean, we eat more biscuits as a nation than any other nation by some margin. So, you know, and I think they're about sharing and connection as well. You know, that people taking a bit of time out, you know, for tea and biscuits or coffee and biscuits. You know, that's part of what it's all about.
Why is it, though, that, I mean, because when we have this debate about, you know, well, what's your favourite biscuit, and loads of people get in touch, I mean, it always gets people going, but it also seems to take you back to your childhood. There's a real childhood connection with the biscuit somehow.
It's also about the moments, isn't it? It's about the moments when you have biscuits, you know, the connections that we make. And I think that's probably what makes it kind of distinctive in our culture. You know, you go around to someone's house and they offer you tea and biscuits and a plate of biscuits. It's part of our hospitality as well.
It is, and I like that you can have a biscuit at 11 o'clock a.m. and then a 4 o'clock biscuit, the correct times for biscuits, I think.
I agree. 11s was a big part of my childhood.
Yes, me too.
There's never a wrong time.
I have to say it's a big part of my adulthood as well. 11s.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, well, especially doing this show, you need 11s, you need 12s, you need snacks all day.
You need a good biscuit any time.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Well, the latest tranche of the Manderson files were published on Monday, although there was an awful lot of tipexing going on there. The Cabinet Minister, Pat McFadden, he's the Work and Pension Secretary, exchanged some messages with the disgraced former American ambassador that raised the eyebrows of some former colleagues. What did he say, Miriam?
Well, he said every meeting I have is who can we tax in order to pay benefits to others.
And he's talking about Labour MP, with
Labour MPs.
Well, Pat McFadden sits down exclusively with our very own Gloria Di Piero in his first interview since those messages were released.
I've known Peter Mandelson for many years, and these messages are kind of back and forth about politics and government that go on a lot. Politics is a series of constant conversations, and that's what's reflected in the material that was produced the other day. Having said that, what I did not know was the extent of his relationship with this guy Epstein and all the stuff that's come out about that since. This was a year or more ago when he was still ambassador when these exchanges took place.
Did you, when Parliament voted to release private messages, did you sort of scroll through and think, oh, that one might blow up a bit?
Well, of course you write things in these messages, and I'm sure everybody does, that they probably, when they wrote them, didn't expect them to be published. Having said that, you know, I've said both in private and in public that we need to change the question that the welfare system asks. I said it, funnily enough, in a bunch of interviews last Thursday, Friday, and in a speech in March, and many times internally in the department. What I mean by that is we need to move from a question which just asks what benefits are you entitled to a question that says, how can we help you change your life? And I think that is a progressive welfare reform question because it puts work and opportunity at the heart of what you're trying to do. I've been saying that in public and in private for a long time.
But the actual message, I'll read it out. Every meeting I have is who can we tax in order to pay benefits for others? They're asking the wrong questions. Now, that exchange was in response to a question about the Parliamentary Labour Party being mutinous, so we assume you're talking about Labour MPs. How are you going to get them to start asking the right questions?
Well, I think we've got to do reform differently. I don't think you can or should do welfare reform just by saying, here's a sum of money we've got to save, and then you graft on the policy afterwards. Of course, cost matters, but the best way to save money on the benefits bill is to help people get into work. And since the day I walked into the department, that's been my emphasis, particularly with young people, because if they get stuck on benefits, it can be a lifelong effect for them. So everything I've done through our youth guarantee that we've announced, through subsidies for employers, changes in the apprenticeship system, all of it has been about putting work and opportunity at the heart of it. And that's what I mean by welfare reform. It's what I mean by asking the right question rather than the wrong question. So I'm approaching this in what I would argue is a progressive Labour way.
And your response to Kemi Badenoch, who the Conservative Party did a set of social media saying Labour's welfare secretary admitted to Peter Mandelson what he won't tell you. Labour raised your taxes to pay for more benefits.
That's what she did. That's what her government did. They had the biggest rise in welfare benefits with none of the youth guarantee stuff that we're talking about. And we've been left with a system that they had 14 years where they created it, designed it, didn't reform it, and then suddenly they say they want all this change. They're a bit like a builder walking around your house saying, well, who installed that and who put that in? When the answer is they did. So I am changing the system that I inherited from them.
We're going to talk about how you're going to get people back into work in a moment, but I just want to ask you first. On Monday night, the body camera footage was released of Henry Novak's arrest. I mean, you're a dad. What went through your mind as a dad when you saw that?
Oh, it's awful. I watched it on the news, seeing this young man, and there's just so much that's wrong there. The assumptions being made. He's saying he can't breathe. He's saying he's being stabbed. He's not being believed. And in the end, he's handcuffed and he's arrested. And I just think this has gone terribly and horribly wrong. There should, obviously, the first place to start is an investigation into the policing of all this. That's got to happen. But, I mean, my heart goes out to this young man's family. I've got a son very similar age, and I think every parent watching that is just awful.
Well, that was Gloria De Piero interviewing Pat McFadden earlier today. You can watch the full interview on gbnews.com.
Pat McFadden is fascinating because he was a political secretary, a political advisor to Tony Blair in, I think, either the first or second administration. He has been around forever.
Yeah.
And was Keir Starmer's effective Deputy Prime Minister, but something went wrong there. And he was moved out of that role, the Cabinet Office, all-powerful, to work on pensions. But he's pretty solid and doesn't put a foot wrong.
No, and he's always very professional on media interviews. And, of course, very interesting, the WhatsApp messages that were leaked.
Oh, yeah.
He was perceiving Labour backbenchers to be far too interested in raising taxes to pay welfare to client groups. He recognised that. Peter Mandelson obviously recognised that.
And I thought what that exchange showed was actually that these Labour MPs, particularly the newbies, they're not here about doing the right thing, which is to try to get to grips with the welfare bill, which has gone through the roof, but just to make sure, as you say, the interest groups in their constituency get more dosh because they're thinking about their majority.
Well, such a high percentage of Labour backbenchers, their jobs before they came into Parliament were working for charities and advocacy groups where their job is to try and win more money for the group that they're representing, which, you know, fair enough, that's their job. But obviously the job of an MP and somebody who's trying to run the country and balance the books is completely different.
Yeah, right. I was talking to the other night, the former Chancellor we interviewed the other day, Jeremy Hunt, launched his book at the Institute of Directors in Pall Mall the other day, and I was talking to Patrick McLaughlin, who was the Conservative Party Chief Whip, a rare beast in Parliament in that he was a coal miner. And there are just so few of those people who did factory workers, assembly line workers, miners, left in Parliament because it's become a very politicised world, hasn't it?
The only one I can
think
of is
advisors.
Lee Anderson.
Lee Anderson, our very own.
Well, there you go. Well, Sir Keir Starmer is going to take on Kemi Badenoch at Prime Minister's Questions very soon, so stay with us for all the build-up. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, this is your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. There's a big band of rain making its way across the country at the moment, but even away from that, there will be some pretty hefty showers and some strong gusty winds. Showers already across parts of Scotland and northeast England, but then this spell of persistent rain sweeps up from the southwest. Some relatively high rainfall totals with this, but then it's the showers following in behind across parts of Northern Ireland, much of England and Wales, and later into southern parts of Scotland, which could really pack a punch. Temperature-wise, well, they're near normal for the time of year, but watch out for some strong gusty winds with those showers. They will make it feel a little bit fresher, and definitely so much fresher than it was this time last week. Into this evening, and we still have some of that persistent rain across parts of Scotland. Northern areas a bit more showery, but across central areas it is going to be pretty wet here. And then looking further south, it's these intense thunderstorms that we need to watch out for. They're going to be pretty widespread. They're going to bring frequent lightning, often going to be thundery, and there'll be some large hail mixed in, especially across parts of northern England. Further south, even here the showers could be heavy and thundery at times, but there'll be slightly fewer of them with some drier, brighter, clearer breaks in between. Overnight, the showers continue. The heaviest ones will largely ease, but there will still be plenty of showers and still some strong, blustery, gusty winds, especially for the time of year. All that does mean temperatures won't drop a huge amount, so most places, particularly the towns and cities, holding up in double digits. But then Thursday's going to be another showery day. Perhaps the showers not quite as intense as some of the ones that we're likely to see through today, but nonetheless, there could still be some rumbles of thunder and some heavy ones mixed in. Any sunny spells will be pretty limited for most, perhaps some towards the south and southeast, but even here, showers will be pushing through and there will still be some strong gusty winds with temperatures, well, looking similar to today. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's a totally tax-free £76,543.21 in cash to be won. Cash to spend on anything you like. That's like having over £6,000 extra to spend each month for a whole year. You could spend it on a bucket list holiday, treats for all of the family, or just save it for a rainy day. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB Newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to GB News. You're watching Britain's Newsroom with Miriam and Andrew, and we're just leading up now to Prime Minister's question time, when, of course, Kemi Badenoch, leader of the Conservative Party, will take on Keir Starmer. Perhaps I should have said that the other way around. Will Keir Starmer take on Kemi Badenoch?
Yeah, and the issue that will dominate, I'm quite sure, will be obviously what happened in Southampton, the Henry Novak, and the police response and the diversity training of police forces that are in the grip of the diversity industry.
It'll be interesting, indeed. It'll be interesting to see if Keir Starmer tries to allege that Kemi Badenoch and others, Nigel Farage, are trying to use this tragedy for political gain, because that certainly seems to be the temptation of some on the left to claim that right-wingers are trying to use this to stoke division. So whether or not he will try to claim that?
I think he'll proceed with care. He should do, because I think they will know in number 10, if they've tested the water, the country, there's a sense of shock and anger and almost disbelief at the way Henry Novak was treated in the last minutes of his life. As his life is ebbing away, the police treating him virtually like a criminal, a racist criminal. And it's endemic of other issues we've seen, whether it was the Nottingham killer, the grooming gangs, where the police appear to be not treating us as equals. And we know it's in the diversity training. You're not supposed to treat us as equals.
And will Starmer admit to that? Because so far he has said, and other ministers have said, there's no such thing as two-tier policing. But I think the fact that these diversity training manuals are now being widely scrutinised by the press and the public, it's no longer possible to deny that, really. Will he offer some sort of review? Of course, they want to wait for the outcome of the IOPC investigation into those individual police officers, but it needs more of a root and branch review of the training.
And we shouldn't forget, of course, in the torrid summer when George Floyd was killed in America, and as Dan Hannan, who we spoke to from the Institute of Economic Affairs, said, of no policy issue of this country whatsoever, Starmer and his deputy, Angela Rayner, both pointedly and publicly took the knee. Which I thought was very misguided at the time, very misguided.
Now, of course, if it wasn't for that tragic murder and the court case that we've seen this week, probably the Mandelson files has been the topic for Kemi Badenoch. They weren't particularly explosive. Of course, a lot of messages either redacted or ministers using disappearing messages on WhatsApp, so not making it into those files.
It was just embarrassing for the
some
Prime
of it was
Minister.
tittle-tattle.
More ministers saying the Prime Minister is clueless, in a nutshell.
And, of course, Pat McFadden's words that will live on in history, that every meeting he goes to with Labour backbenchers is asking who can we tax more to pay benefits to others. So that's something she may go on
and as he did say in that exchange with Mandelson, they're asking these Labour MPs the wrong question. But we know that's because, and that explains why the attempt to cut the benefits bill last year, Miriam, by a mere £5 billion was seen off because Labour MPs weren't having any of it. And a weak Prime Minister should have seen them off. He should have seen them off, Keir Starmer. And McFadden does say in those exchanges with Mandelson, his authority will be difficult to be recovered if he loses his vote. So they didn't put it to the vote in the end, they pulled the vote.
Yes, incredible. Be interesting to see if any Reform MPs are allowed to ask a question, of course, because they are such a small party in Parliament, obviously leading in the polls, but only 8 MPs. They don't get any guaranteed questions each week. Their MPs will go into the ballot. They may be lucky, they may be not lucky, but I think on average, a backbench MP will only get about one question to the Prime Minister each year. So it's not easy to get a question in Prime Minister.
Prime Minister is now in his place on the front bench. The Northern Ireland Secretary Hilary Benn has been taking questions as a backbencher on his feet, talking about issues to do with Northern Ireland, and then the Speaker will say they're off. Kemi Badenoch's in her place too, and of course we shouldn't forget Lib Dems. Ed Davey gets to ask 2 questions every week now, doesn't he?
Yes, as the third largest party in Parliament. It's not going to be an easy PMQs for the leaders because, of course, they want to talk about the Novak case, the wider issues, but they've also got to be careful to speak about it in a way that's respectful to the family, that isn't seen as inciting the protests or violence, but that does get to the heart of the issues, and I don't think that's going to be easy.
Speaker's on his feet now, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, who we know was the one who demanded there was a government statement yesterday about the Novak case. Initially it was going to be a junior minister who did a very nervous minister broadcast around this one, but in the end it was the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood. So he'll call the Prime Minister shortly, and then we'll be handing over to Christopher Hope, our political editor, and Gloria De Piero.
Yes, I can't hear what he's saying, but perhaps he's outlining the order of business for the rest of the day. Who knows? The Speaker often has a few notices. Of course, it starts with a question from a backbencher, randomly drawn from the ballot. Then the Leader of the Opposition gets 7 questions in a row. That's why you see Kemi Badenoch standing up, sitting down frequently, and then it goes back to backbench questions, and they alternate between the government benches and the opposition benches until the Speaker calls time at about 12:30. But he'll try and fit as many people.
I mean, I remember when Bercow was Speaker, I couldn't stand Bercow. Of course, sometimes PMQs ran till 20 to 1. Would you remember that?
Absolutely. Well, it does start late sometimes. I mean, we're already on 12:02, so there's already a couple of minutes grace, but he does try and get as many people in as possible. But of course, it's really important for MPs, particularly in Prime Minister's questions, which is so oversubscribed, to keep the questions short. The temptation is to make a little speech. I think this may be the first question to the Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I Lord Hazelhurst? I know he will be deeply missed, particularly on the benches opposite. Mr. Speaker, the findings of the recent Spring Hill inquest into the tragic deaths in July 1972 of Father Noel Fitzpatrick, Patrick Butler, Margaret Gargan, David McCafferty and John Dougal are sobering. While the circumstances in which the events occurred were undoubtedly challenging, it is the duty of the state to hold itself to the highest standard. The government accepts and deeply regrets these findings and recognises their gravity. On behalf of the government, I want to apologise unreservedly to the families for what happened and for the grief and trauma that they have endured since the tragic deaths of their loved ones.